Hello everyone and welcome back for another reaction video in which your host, me, David, chats with you for roughly 10 minutes about a game I've been playing recently. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it worth your time? Let's go. Okay, this week we're talking about a game that, as of recording, I've only just finished, and that is, boom boom boom, drum roll, Resident Evil 0. Now, let's have a look on the Wikipedia page to give you a little bit of a rundown of what you can expect from this game or what this game is about. It's developed and published by Capcom. The director was Koji Oda. And it's classed as a survival horror. It's a prequel to Resident Evil, which came out in 1996. This game came out on the GameCube originally in 2002, but today can be got on GameCube, Wii, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. I played this on my Series X, and I guess it was the Xbox One version I would have played. But, sorry, to get you back to this is a prequel to Resident Evil, which came out in 1996, covering the ordeals experienced in the Arklay Mountains by Special Police Force Unit, the STARS Bravo team. The story follows Officer Rebecca Chambers and convict Billy Cohen as they explore an abandoned training facility for employees of the pharmaceutical company Umbrella. The game is similar to other Resident Evil games, but adds the ability to switch between characters to solve puzzles in this unique and using unique abilities, which is where I would like to start with my discussion about this game, I suppose, in that the key twist to this game, as I say, it's 6 years after it set before Resident Evil 1, but came out 6 years after Resident Evil 1. The interesting thing about this game is that you don't just control one character like you did up to the point where this game came out, where it'd been a single player only game where you controlled one character at a time. This one allows you to switch between characters. And you can either split them up to go and do, as you're required to do, go and complete puzzles and pass each other things through different ways and means to complete puzzles, or you can go together to give you a bit more firepower and, I guess, strength in numbers, so to speak. That was a bit of a shock because I wasn't sure what to expect when I started playing this game, and I was not expecting that. And actually, I found it quite a refreshing change to what must have been at that point quite a stale, or at least growing long in the tooth, standard Resident Evil experience. I think that for its time as well, the game also looks absolutely fantastic. I suppose that's, as my partner in crime Alex said, he's right enough that it's because of the static background. There's not a lot moves around in the game, and there's a lot of set camera angles and pre-rendered graphics. So it allowed the GameCube, which was a powerful console in its day, but sorry if you can hear some smashing about, my dog is chewing something, so I'm going to throw that out there so that hopefully he doesn't come back. No, he's coming back. Apologies folks, hopefully it's not too bad on the recording. Excuse me, yes, a lot of pre-rendered graphics. So it allowed the GameCube, which was a powerful console in its day, to really shine. And yes, if it came out today, it wouldn't be blowing up. I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It wouldn't be setting any flames. But it's still a really, really nice looking game. And considering the time it came out, it is a truly stunning game. Other than that, how this holds up today, I think it came sort of towards the end of what we would expect from a Resident Evil game in the traditional sense. I think it was pre-Resident Evil 4, so if you sort of set that as the watermark about when the games began to at least change direction or modernise in some way, I would say this is one of the last standing OG Resident Evil games. Obviously, you can't walk and shoot. You've got to hold, or at least in my controller, hold RB to pull your gun up, and then A to shoot and B to reload while you were pulling your gun up. And I think the odd clunky controls combined with the still what I find frustrating obtuse puzzles. So there was things, example, that I ended up looking up a guide for, where you have to collect there's like gas canisters hidden around the level, and at no point does it suggest that you're supposed to interact with them in any way. But it turns out that actually you're meant to have been collecting the gas out the gas canister so that you can mix them with another gas canister that you might find later in the game to solve a puzzle. And stuff like that I found deeply frustrating, because it's almost like they are harkening back to the old point and click era, where puzzles weren't logical. They were just difficult for the sake of being difficult, with no other reason than to sort of artificially extend the period in which you're going to be playing the game. And thankfully, more modern Resident Evil games, they're still sort of quirky and schlocky and a bit hokey, but their puzzles are a bit more sensible and they make sense and there's a logic to them. There wasn't always a logic to these puzzles, and that's something that I've found quite frustrating about Resident Evil games over the years, and I'm glad that they have moved away from that, because at the end of the day, yes, it's schlocky, yes, it's silly, yes, it's hokey, but there's something quite endearing about the Resident Evil world in its weird, scary way, in that I kind of like it, even though it's a bit silly, but I think it's deliberately silly, so you can kind of, I was going to say forgive it, but you're on board for that when you're going to play a Resident Evil game. And I think that because of that, this game doesn't hold up so well today. And I'm trying to think about who I would recommend this to, because I think you might see a few more Resident Evil games popping up on this channel over the next few weeks and months. And if you don't, then go and check out my podcast, I Wouldn't Review, because I will be certainly talking about more Resident Evil games. I'm having a bit of a summer of Resident Evil. And that's out of, one, I don't think I've played enough of the games that I should have, and two, there's just, like I've said, there's just something fun about the world that makes me want to engage with it. And this odd puzzling mechanic where they're just weirdly obtuse and silly kind of holds that back, which is a real shame. But this game is still fun. So like I was saying, who am I recommending this to? If you're someone like me and you sort of love video game history and you want to know a bit more about Resident Evil franchise, I think this is one that, yes, although I'll say it is towards the end of the OG Resident Evil gameplay, it does try a couple things new, and it threatened to do stuff that I thought was quite interesting, which I'll hopefully get to later on this. But if you're looking for a modern, fun game, maybe this isn't it. This is a timepiece that you're looking at from a historical point of view, and you're understanding what you're getting into before you go into it. And I guess what I mean by that is things like Super Mario World you can recommend to players today because they're still fantastic games today. Whether you're playing them today or whether you were playing them in the early 90s, that game was still fantastic, and it still is today. This game, I'm not sure what it was like back in the day, but it's not a great game today. So when you're playing it, you can have fun with it, but you also have to be aware of where it's coming from and what time it existed in, and where the Resident Evil franchise was at that point. So the other thing I want to talk about, I guess, is the switching characters thing, and what I was talking about later, as in they were tantalizing a few things, in that this game starts in a train, which I really enjoyed the train section. It's something that it felt very un-Resident Evil-y, but also Resident Evil at the same time. You were finding your way up and down these carriages, and by the time I'd finished that train section, I knew that train section inside out, and it was fun in a way, trying to learn the layout of the train and finding yourself in areas that you were trying to get to and working out how to get to other areas. And then I moved on to what appeared to be a sort of mini mansion in a more traditional Resident Evil sense. And then soon you move on from that section into another bit. And as I did that and opened up this painting that allowed me to go underneath the mansion, I was expecting this to be a sort of whistle-stop, almost mini Resident Evil tour, if that makes sense. So up to this point, I may be missing out bits and pieces in the odd game, but the sort of traditional Resident Evil game was set in a mansion or set in a police station or set in a big building that encouraged the player to learn the building, learn the layout, and that is where the whole game was set. I was expecting this game to go in the direction as it appeared to be going, as sort of the mini mansions, and it was presenting you with mini areas that you would move on, you would learn, and then you would sort of move on to the next thing. It didn't quite become that. It is like sort of mini mansion 0.5 in that once you move under the mansion, you're soon back, but you never really come back for any length of time until the end. And then once you leave the mansion, you do sort of move back. But the game after the train is always open to you, so it ended up just being the sort of standard mansion formula, but they did a good job of making me feel like they were changing the environment. And in hindsight, what the train section was is really a sort of training area where it opens you up to the main concepts of the game. It introduces you, it starts you off on your own, then it introduces you to the second character, and then it introduces you to the shared, like to be able to switch between characters on the fly. Then it introduces you to the puzzle mechanics of having your characters in different places and then bringing them together and switching items and making sure the right character has the right items and stuff like that. And then it opens out into the bigger experience in which it becomes a bit more difficult and a bit more obtuse. So that was a disappointment for me, but overall I get it. I get what Resident Evil is. I understand what it was trying to do. So yeah, I guess that brings me to the end of what I've got to say about this game. Like I say, this is a hard game to recommend to people that are just out looking to enjoy games and not really think about games any deeper than that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not meaning that to come across as hipsterish in any way. That is absolutely how most people in fact enjoy games and what they're looking for. And if that's where you are with games, and rightly so, then I'm not sure this game is for you. If you love the Resident Evil series, then chances are you've already dug into this game, and I think it's a worthwhile game. And if you're interested in the history of games, I think this is a worthwhile experience in trying to sort of learn where the series came from and what it wants to do and how it came to be, and maybe the mistakes that they made along the way, and maybe you can see some little glimmers of that in here. But overall, it's a fun game. It's just hard to recommend because I think the industry has moved on some. And I suppose, again, that's it, folks. That brings me to the end of my thoughts, feelings, hopes and dreams on Resident Evil Zero. I hope you find what I've said useful. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I've got plans for different styles of content, so please like and subscribe to help me grow the channel, and so you know when more videos go live. Also, I don't just do videos in here on YouTube. I also write for various websites and make podcasts. A winner is you. Check us out on your podcast feed of choice. To check those out, head over to my blog stickflickers.com. I use the blog as a sort of catch-all net to group together my work for myself as much as anything, so that I can keep track of it. And you can also follow me on Twitter at DavidSmiley1, DavidSmillie, and on the number 1, and on Instagram at DavidSmiley. And I think that's it. Thanks for watching. See you on the flip side, folks. Bye.